Hello everyone, my name is Rukuto Kamo from Childline, Kohima. We are so grateful to the Department of School Education, Government of Nagaland for giving us a slot to introduce Childline to you through this medium. What or who is Childline? Childline 1098 is a national toll-free helpline number for children in distress and in need of care and protection, which operates 24/7. It is a project under the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India. Childline is currently operating in 570 cities all across India and presently operating in 5 districts in Nagaland, that is Kohima, Dimapur, Mokokchung, Peren and Kiferi. Who can call 1098? A child or any concerned adult can call 1098 anytime for children in distress and in need of care and protection. Childline do not reveal the identity of the person calling 1098. It is always kept confidential. What are the categories of cases supported by Childline? There are the missing children, the runaway children, abused children, children seeking medical assistance, child labor, street children, and all kinds of children in need of care and protection. What are some of the services extended to children by Childline? We respond to phone call 24/7, rescue of a child if need arise, nutrition and emotional support and guidance through counseling, referral services such as medical assistance, temporary shelter, education sponsorship, restoration and repatriation of a child to their families in the best interest of the child. How do we create awareness? We conduct awareness programs in college, schools, churches, colonies, outreach programs through one-to-one interaction, small group meetings, and distribution of our Childline IEC materials. We also create awareness on the existence of Childline and its services and the different laws of our country protecting our children. We also create awareness on the cases prevalent in our city. Childline does not work alone or in isolation. We work along with various line government departments and agencies like the district administration, the police department, the legal department, education department, medical department, labor department, the social welfare department, state child protection society, district child protection unit, the child welfare committee, our Childline partners in different parts of the country, and all the NGOs working for children. In conclusion, we want to send a message across to everyone that even as the entire world and our nation is battling against COVID-19 pandemic, Childline is still there to reach out to any child in distress and in need of care and protection. We also take this opportunity to make an appeal to each and everyone to please call 1098 whenever you see any child in distress and in need of care and protection. Let us all join hands to make our city a safe place for our children to live in. Thank you, God bless, and stay safe.
Welcome, my dear students of class 12 to this English class with me, your tutor, Atsinyo Sekose. Today, our topic is from the novel that is The Canterville Ghost by Oscar Wilde. So introducing fiction to you is nothing new because you have already dealt with it in class 11. But just a reminder here, when we say fiction or novels, we are talking about fictitious characters. We are talking about fictitious events in probably talking about a certain period of time. So with that context in mind, we are going to take a bigger picture into the context of this novel. And when we say context, we are talking about the author's background, the kind of experiences that he or she grew up in. So we are also going to do a little bit of exploration of the authors, that is Oscar Wilde. Now, Oscar Wilde is born in a very affluent family, which means that the parents were very rich and they were intellectuals. You will find that he is also a very studious person. In his student career, he also won many medals and scholarships. So he is a very intellectual person, and you will find that the author here is again nothing new, because you must have dealt with one of his famous celebrated work, that is The Importance of Being Earnest. So that is the same author that we are going to deal with, but we are going to take a look at it through the perspective of a novel. So that's what we have here. Now, he is a contemporary writer. Who or what is contemporary, which means talking about the present day's events. So if we look at it, he is very much celebrated today. Why? Because he has written about things, topics that were happening during his time. And what is his time? If we take a look at the timeline of Oscar Wilde, you would find that he lived during the time of Victorian era. So what is Victorian era? Which means the time of, or the period of reign when Queen Victoria was ruling Britain. That is from 1837 to 1901. And if you have noticed, Oscar died in 1900. So he lived during that contemporary time and during the time of Victorian era. And in order to understand the Ghost of Canterville better, we need to understand how the Victorian era impacted the author and how that is being reflected or criticized or satirized, that is, which means attacking a certain section of society or attacking a certain mannerism, satirical, using sarcasm or ridicule it. So that's what Oscar Wilde did in this novel. On the outer surface, you would find that it looks like a ghost story, and the topic even suggests that, but if we dig further, you will find that it is a whole lot of elements that you would be finding, interesting elements for that matter. So that's what we have here. So now we are going to take a look at the Queen Victorian era, that is 1837 to 1901. And this era is known as a complex era of contrast. So when we say contrast, I need you to keep this noted, because contrast here is one of the main running theme in the novel, contrast, which means bringing two different things and comparing it. So what is being compared in the novel here? We are talking about Britain. We are talking about traditional values, dogmatic values, aristocratic lifestyle. And on the other hand, we are talking about America, which is a modern country, people who are modern in their perspectives, people who believes in science and technology, people who believes in changes in society, and so on. So that there we have the contrast, and naturally there is a lot of conflict in the novel. So we would be discussing more about that. So what is this complex era of during the Queen Victoria era's reign? There is this stability versus progress. There are people who are trying to uphold or hold on to the aristocratic values, which are, some of them, which are quite valuable principles, in fact. On the other hand, there is progress. What kind of progress are we talking about here? Now, Victorian era is a transitional era from one era to another era. You would find that before Queen Victoria reign, there was the Georgian era, which was a very laid-back era. But in the Victorian era, what happened is that there was transition happening, transformation or changes. What are those changes? Modernity, with the coming of science and technology, and with the inventions of many new things and discoveries. And in fact, the publications of Charles Darwin, that is The Origin of Species, shook the morality of the Victorian people. Why? Because now people are questioning, is there a God? You know, after reading this, is there a God? All those things, the morality, the ethics were being questioned. So there was also, even though there is a great progress in the society, what is happening within the society is that there is a lot of upheaval. In other words, there is a lot of unrest in the society. We talk about modernism in synonymously with industrialization. So with, again, industrialization, we are talking about here child labors, you know, all those social issues were being brought about. And so there is a lot of immorality as well. Even though there is stability and progress, there is a lot of social unrest within the society. So all these issues were being addressed by Oscar Wilde in the novel. So in the world of the Ghost of Canterville, we are going to explore all those themes and elements in the novel. And why is it that it is important to understand the world of the book and the world of the author? Because this will give us, like I said, the context of the novel. And once you understood the context, where the poet's point of view is coming from, why certain characters are saying certain things or behaving in a certain mannerism, you would be able to understand it better. So for today's class, the whole point is to help you understand the text better without me doing much of the explanation. I'm sure you would be able to read it for yourself, and it is important for you to read it for yourself because that's the whole point of having this fiction in your syllabus. So I would suggest that you give it a thorough reading and then also follow these suggestions. Now, coming back to another important point in the Victorian era here, it is also an age of restraint and contradictions. There was a lot of restraint. Remember, it is transitioning to a modern era, and so there were some of them were still holding on to the old values, so there is a little bit of restraint. The Victorian morality, the right, this is right and this is wrong, you know, all those principles were still fighting against the modern civilization here. So there is the age of restraint and contradictions. That's why you will find that in the character of the ghost and versus the Otis's family, you will find that there is a lot of conflicts and contradictions. Take the example of the ghost who does not like the American navies. He thinks that authorities and power should be vested only on the lord or people of title, in Britain that is. But in America that is not the case. Anybody who is hardworking enough, anybody who has the will and the abilities can climb up that ladder of social ladder. So see, that those are the clashes, the restraints and the contradictions, and of course, again, ethical issues that they are talking about, which in the case of Virginia, you would find that she is also trying to correct the ghost by saying that it is not right to murder or kill a person. So again, a little bit of Victorian morality is found in the character of Virginia. So that's what you would find here. And they have zero tolerance of immoral crimes or crimes. So that is what we have. Now, the next important thing or element that you need to note down is the tradition versus modernity. Like I said, it is the Britain civilization versus American civilization, the aristocratic versus the modern civilization, the ghost and the Otis's family. If we compare and contrast, coming back to the word contrast here, you will find that there are a lot of differences. Then you would find a lot of, naturally, like I said, if there is a lot of contrast, there is a lot of conflict. So conflict within the character, conflict within the story, that's what you would also come across. Now, one of the interesting things that you would find here is the ghost failure to frighten the modern family. The ghost utter failure to frighten. Everything that he does, he kept on failing in his plan to frighten this Otis family. Because why? Because the Otis family, we are looking at a set of modern family who do not believe in supernatural things or superstitious things. You know, they believed in scientific temperament, that they believed that everything can be understood logically and can be done systematically. So they are very pragmatic in nature, which means they solve problems in a very practical manner. And so that is why we find that they do not, they deny the existence of the ghost entirely, which brought a lot of humor in the story as well. Why we understand here that why the ghost is failing to frighten the Otis family. So again, that is what we find here. The ghost was humiliated in such a manner that he was trying to do everything, pull out every costumes and every frightening events to scare this Otis family, but failed in vain. So here we have again the contrast of, or the theme of modernity and the elements of modernity, that is materialism. Take the example of the modern family here. In this Otis family, you would find that they are very modern in their approach. You will find that in chapter 2, even their discussions are all about current affairs, such as talking about the famous American actress Miss Fanny, and talking about the world soul, the development, the latest development or scientific development in the current place. So that is what we find here. They are very updated people as a modern family, and they do not believe, unlike the traditional aristocratic, or we can say traditional dogmatic people here who believes in supernaturals, who believe in superstitions and so on. They do not believe in any such kind of things. So here their problem, or the way they solve the problem, is very practical. And how do they solve those kind of problems? They solve it in a very materialistic way. Take the example of Washington Otis, who brought out the great Pinkerton stain remover. And the way he dismisses that 300 years old blood stain on the fireplace, near the fireplace, saying that that's nonsense. This Pinkerton's champion stain remover will do the trick in an instant, and naturally it did that. So you see, solving problems, they do not want a blood stain in the library, and solving problems with materialistic things. Take the example of Mrs. Otis, who offered medicine to cure the stomach ailments that she thought the ghost was having, when the ghost was giving demonic laughters. And again, take the example of Mr. Otis, who offered a lubricator to stop the chain of the ghost from rattling and disturbing the entire residence there. So that is the case that we find here. If you take a look at it, even the opening scene, we find that Mr. Otis is such a very rich person that he wanted to buy the house as well as the ghost. He said that I will take it at valuation. I would even buy the ghost. So that's what we find here. So there is that theme of materialism and modernism that runs in parallel with the novel here. Now, you would also find that there is a great influx of American money during this era, that is during the 1837 to 1901, during the Victorian era. There was however, how did this happen? You remember, Britain was at its prime era in terms of economic growth. It is the capital of the world economy, in fact. So what we have here is, on the one hand, Britain is very rich. On the other hand, America is also a developing country, in fact, very much progressed in its own way. And the only thing that the American people lack here is titles. The only thing that American people lack here is titles, such as Lord, Duke, Duchess, and so on. So see, they are migrating to Britain in order to gain such titles through marriage alliances. And there is also a huge influx of money, which means a lot of money were being poured to Britain by the American people in order to buy land and settle there. So that is the scenario that we have here. And so we see here Britain as a melting pot of civilization. A lot of American people with different kinds of views and opinions, they are coming to Britain in search of a better social status, in search of titles and so on. And so through marriage alliances, such things were happening. Money was also being poured into into the society. So it is no wonder that Oscar Wilde is also trying to criticize modern people who are very materialistic in nature, who are very money-minded, materialistic here. So he is also addressing that through the characters, and as the events unfold, you would be learning more about that. So there is rich American flooding migrating to Britain in order to attain social status in terms of titles. So that's what we have here, the world of Oscar and the world of Victorian era, which is portrayed, reflected in the novel The Ghost of the Canterville's Ghost by Oscar Wilde. So that is what we have here. That is what we would be dealing with. Now, let's come take a look at the context of the full picture of the Canterville Ghost here. It is a typical Victorian comedy. Like I said, when we look at it, the Canterville Ghost, the word ghost suggests here that it must be a ghostly story, but you will find that it is also a comedy. And how did this comedy or humor, you have a question there in your text about humor, so you can also suggest, you can also put in all these ideas. So how did the humor came about? The humor came about through reversal of roles or situations. We, as readers, we were thinking the ghost is going to terrorize the Otis family, but instead the ghost is being terrorized like anything, to a point of great depression that he was scared to go out for 5 days. So if we think about it, a ghost who is scared to frighten people, now that is the reversal of roles or situations here. So a lot of comic things are being brought about. So we can say that it is a typical Victorian comedy. It is comedy, humorous, at the same time it is also ridicule or attacking the ways of the world in that era. So that's what we have here. Then take a look at the Victorians' morality ethics is also being satirized here. In the case where Virginia, again, Miss Virginia was trying to correct the ghost by saying that it is wrong. And again, a strict morality in the society. That is also what is being satirized. What is a satire? So here it means attack or ridicule. So the running theme in the novel here is, it is also about love. It is also very philosophical. It is also about forgiveness and peace. So all these elements make the novel very philosophical in nature. I'm sure this would help you or make you curious enough to go and read it out. Now the novel has lots of elements such as Gothic elements, which means ghostly, ghoulish behavior. In the opening scene of the novel, we find that when the Otis family came to Canterville Chase, the weather was quite terrible. It was raining, there was thunder, and then birds were flying across overhead silently. Birds were flying across overhead silently, and see, that kind of weather was being reflected. So that gives a Gothic element. Take the example of every Wednesday or first and last Wednesday on the 13th. So all those things gives a Gothic elements in our story. Bloodstain, red eyes, greenish appearance, all those things. Then we have comedy here. Like I said, comedy is being brought about by reversal of roles and reversals of situations, the ghost being terrorized instead of the Otis family. Then there is also romance, the romance between Miss Virginia and the Duke of Cheshire. So I hope you would also take some time to go and read it out, what happened in the end. There is a lot of family drama, you know, the child Virginia went missing, all those things, and then the naughty or mischievous twins in the family, the handsome Washington Otis, and so on. So all this kind of family drama is going on here, along with the ghost who is trying to terrorize the family. So that's what we have here in the context of the Canterville Ghost, and I hope you would take time to read it, because unless you read it, it will not be that effective. I can also suggest that you all can watch some movies and videos on the Canterville Ghost. You will find plenty, even animated. So you can do that, but I'm telling you that videos, all these kind of movies or films can be too appealing to the eye that you may miss out the whole point or the whole plot of the novel. So I would suggest that at least read it once so that you would be able to comprehend. So this is how you would be working on your reading skills as well. So on that note, we would be winding up today's class. Thank you all very much for joining me.